Let's bring in our guests now. We have Molly Hemingway of The Federalist here in Washington. Also, Ray Suarez, former PBS NewsHour correspondent, and in Los Angeles, radio talk show host Leslie Marshall. Let me start with Molly and Ray. I want to go back to President Trump and the briefings this week on the coronavirus. I mentioned earlier, reporter Chanel Rion from One America News asking the president whether he considers the term Chinese food racist as a way of ridiculing the critics of the president using the term Chinese virus. And here's how it went down.
Major left-wing news media, even in this room, have teamed up with Chinese Communist Party narratives, and they're claiming you're racist.
It amazes me when I read the Wall Street Journal, which is always so negative. It amazes me when I read the New York Times. Is not even, I barely read it. The Washington Post is going wild lately. I don't know what happened to them. They are siding with China.
Molly, President says these newspapers have just been banned by Beijing are siding with China. Do you see any evidence of that?
Well, there are, first of all, differences between each of these papers. I think if you look at their front page, the Wall Street Journal tends to play it pretty straight. The New York Times and Washington Post, less so. They do a lot of critical analysis of the president. We're really seeing that this is a complex moment, and our media are not particularly up to the challenge. Already, even if it's an apolitical story, they sensationalize things. They are unable to provide context. That's even true if it's like a shark attack. When you're dealing with a complicated public health, economic, constitutional issue like what we're going through now, they're just not doing a particularly good job. And their need for Trump to fail at all costs, which they've shown that they're obsessed with for the last several years, makes it particularly problematic.
Ray, there's a difference between criticizing the media coverage, which the president does all the time, and saying that these organizations are siding with China. Your thoughts?
It's just a ramping up of the same kind of rhetoric that was present in the briefing room earlier in the Trump administration. If you look carefully at the pages of all three newspapers, you'll find reported the attempts of the Chinese government to cover up the spread in Wuhan in the early days of the virus. You'll find reporting on the extensive measures that the Chinese government took to throttle freedom of movement and freedom of speech when it would have helped to have people able to speak freely about how to respond to the virus. And you'll see reporting about how China is now, today, trying to win the PR battle by pivoting toward giving materials and supplies and advice to countries around the world that are having problems responding.
Let me jump in because I'm coming up on a hard break. Leslie, half a minute. Joe Biden says he's going to start doing coronavirus briefings himself tomorrow. He and the campaign have basically been kind of wiped off the radar by the coronavirus. Would you agree?
Well, yeah, absolutely. But Joe Biden doesn't suffer from this as much as Senator Sanders does because he wasn't out there doing as many big rallies. And also Senator Sanders is still a sitting senator and has work to do. Right. So Joe Biden can focus on giving that message digitally, which just does start on Monday. You are correct.
All right. At the White House, NBC's Peter Alexander asked whether the president was giving people a false sense of hope by touting the possible effects of two malaria drugs on the coronavirus. And then this happened.
What do you say the Americans were scared, though? I guess nearly 200 dead, 14,000 who are sick, millions, as you witnessed, who are scared right now. What do you say to Americans who are watching you right now who are scared?
I say that you're a terrible reporter. That's what I say. Go ahead. I think it's a very nasty question, and I think it's a very bad signal that you're putting out to the American people. The American people are looking for answers, and they're looking for hope. And you're doing sensationalism, and the same with NBC and Comcast. I don't call it Comcast. I call it Concast.
Molly Hemingway, what does the president get out of saying this was a nasty question? And it wasn't, in fact, a nasty or unfair question.
Well, in a vacuum, the question was totally fine. The 3 minutes preceding that question, which were full of making the worst case about what Trump was doing, accusing him of trying to harm the American people, that was the part that I think bothered the president. And it's important when people report about it that they do include that context of what led up to this moment. And this general approach of being so negative against the president, I think doesn't wear as well as a lot of people in the media think it does.
Ray Suarez, your thoughts on that dust up with the NBC reporter, but also Stephanie Grisham telling me earlier that she doesn't think it's appropriate for the media to be looking back at the president, who some say, minimize this for weeks and weeks and weeks. Is that part of our job, or should we be just focused on today and tomorrow?
If you're press secretary for somebody who has said wrong, incorrect, and misleading things about the state of play for months, that's probably a good position to take. We were not at 15 cases on our way to zero when he said it. A test was not available to every American who wanted one when he said it. It's not even true today. So why wouldn't Stephanie Gresham suggest that we shouldn't keep looking back? The job for any president is to be careful, consistent, and credible. And I guess we can do a postmortem when this is all over on whether the president succeeded on those counts.
That will have to wait. Leslie Marshall, I asked you about Joe Biden. I mean, he won Florida, Illinois, and Arizona this week, and barely any coverage. Has the coronavirus basically frozen the presidential campaign right now?
No, the coronavirus has taken over as the leading news item because it's affecting so many people. It's so rapid, it's unprecedented. It's nothing that we've ever seen in any of our lifetimes, because the last epidemic or pandemic on this level was about 100 years ago, according to my husband, the doctor, and other medical professionals. People are frightened, and if if I can weigh in quick,
well, you can't.
I think a leader
because the computer's
has
cut us
to
off.
calm the nation
Thank you so much.
squelch our fears.